Well, I get death threats all the time.
Yeah.
I got them before. Somebody called me literally Satan, a big Muslim
That's gotta be
apologist.
that's gotta be a compliment. If somebody calls you literally Satan, I would take
Yeah.
that as a compliment.
Somebody even accused me of secretly approaching Muslim youth and telling them, "Hey, I want to tell you something about Islam. You should leave," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People are weird.
Like you're the guy in the bushes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Just give me 1 second here. Mm,
Just a second. I don't know why I don't hear you properly.
okay.
What's going on here? What is going on here? What's happening? Can you say something? Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I hear you. Okay.
Okay, great. Awesome. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking my request to talk with you. I usually don't interact a whole lot with like the religious debate sphere online. When I first started doing debates, I interacted a little bit, but it was like with a small group of people, and I ended up offending them really quickly by accident. So, uh, after that, kind of have stayed away from it. But I thought it was really cool. I am not really much in the religious debate scene. I more do like politics stuff. But it seems that you do a lot of it.
I do. Well,
Yeah.
first off, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Yeah, I mainly focus on the religion with what I do online. That was
Yeah.
the whole purpose, was actually to only focus on that. And to not talk about other religions, and not talk about politics, not make it in any way divided, or whatever you want to call it, but just to have one certain focus, which is Islam, my experience with it, everything that people need to know, and all that. So that's fun too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've noticed, I guess one difference that I have with a lot of former Muslims is I notice a lot of former Muslims have kind of like a bitter disposition towards Islam, understandably so. And I can understand that. Do you ever think that there could be like a moderate form of Islam practiced that could be more integrated with Western culture?
Well, I mean, it can be tried, and
Yeah.
in some world there is,
Yeah.
you know, people practice a more reformed or secularized version of
Yeah.
it. There are some people who even suggest that the whole Islamic history was a distortion of Islam, and that Islam should be reformed and practiced much differently, and all that. I just don't think it's really possible to create a milder version of Islam, to reform Islam, to make Islam adapt to Western society. I mean, people say stuff like, they say, well, Christianity reformed and changed, and but there is a huge difference there. I'm not saying Christianity is a wonderfully perfect religion which can adapt to any society. That's not what I'm saying at all. But Christianity had it was possible for Christianity to adapt to society, because Christianity doesn't have the one thing that Islam has, which is the claim that this religion is perfect as it was revealed in the 7th century to some guy in the desert. And the book that it was revealed with is the perfect word of God. He wants you to do exactly what that book says, and nothing can be changed or questioned about it. With that system, I just do not think it is possible for Islam to ever change, even if some Muslims, stay Muslims and adapt to modern society. At its core, it is still a fundamentalist, radical religion, which is contrary to our ideas of establishing a free society. and it will always show itself in form of people saying that an Islamic State should be established and people should be, striving for brutal Islamic laws and morals and all that.
Yeah. Um, I guess I have a different experience. I know that you grew up with a really religious background, or and I grew up with somewhat of a religious background as well, but with the background of like American culture, and also not being in a completely typical family. So I think even though we did practice Islam, it wasn't as strict as practiced in other places. And my mom was a feminist too, so she instilled those values in us. But I guess I would say I would still say that there are Christian sects and Christian people, certain followers of certain like sects of Christianity that do believe in following things to the T, and do believe in like a much more traditional society that I would find uh, wouldn't work with modern society.
You're right about that. But what exactly does that mean within the context of Christianity and within the context of Islam? And with Christianity, you have some very religious communities in America and around the world. When it comes to many of the religious communities in America, many of them are just communities that are kind of, secluded. They don't want to interact very much with the outside world. They don't want to be involved in politics. Now, there is the other side. There are those evangelical Christians who are, I don't know, you could say, they are more involved in politics. They want to impose their Christian morality on others. But even then, even then, what does it really look like in comparison to fundamentalist Muslims, for example? An American conservative Christian who is really religious wants to, I don't know, have the same political system that we have in place, while opposing certain moral perversions as they see it, or freedoms from our perspective.
I think you
But
might be surprised. There are Christian nationalists who do believe in having a more like fascistic kind of government, a more authoritarian government. I've argued with a few of them. There are quite a few of them who do believe in having just a much more authoritarian state that enforces traditional roles upon people. So I think it's there, and you may be right that it's not as common as it is in Islamic culture, but I do on a regular basis interact with people who are Christians who want that authoritarianism for everybody.
if you could make a guess,
Mhm.
how what do you think is the approximate percentage of Christians who would want to establish a state that is governed by Christianity, whose laws are based on Christian values, which references Christianity and which declares Christianity as a state religion, and which punishes people for being immoral, which publicly tortures or
Mhm.
executes people who say something about Christianity or about Jesus, or any of that stuff. How many people do you think actually
So of the
believe?
average population, I'm not really sure. I couldn't really
I
tell
I,
you.
I would
Yeah.
make my guess and say it's less than 1%,
Okay.
or
Um,
I would say it's less than 0.5%. Right? I don't know. Uh,
You may be right. It's definitely a minority of people. It's definitely a minority of people. I think
here's the
though,
issue though. Here's the issue though. When it comes to
uh-huh,
Muslims
yeah.
around the world, generally speaking,
Mhm.
globally, the majority of Muslims think that Islam should be ruling. Islam should be a ruling force. in politics. The majority of Muslims think homosexuality should be punished, preferably with death. The majority think adulterers should be killed. The majority think blasphemy should be punished, should be forbidden, and punished with death. I think about half, maybe more, maybe less, think that people who leave Islam, just leave Islam, should be killed or otherwise punished, and so on. So this is just if you think about Christians, you will find like a tiny little insignificant number of people who actually advocate for anything that we could consider extremist or radical. With the conservatives that you have, the worst thing they want to propose is to, I don't know, ban abortion or have some stricter controls on what people say about homosexuality or how they endorse it and all that. With the Muslim population, you have the majority that want Islam in power and that want brutal laws in the world. This is why the West is the way it is today, and the Muslim world is not the modern society that we have here.
Okay. So I think I agree with you on the average moderate conservative not wanting to have like an authoritarian state. Generally, the worst that they want is abortion, illegal and possibly gay marriage revoked, things like that. I guess what I would say in response to that, though, is there is a growing fringe, though, I would say, and at least in American politics, there is a growing like right wing fringe that does want more authoritarian practices, and whereas like the average, and this is only within the U.S. though, so I can't really say around the globe. The globe, it may very well be different, but the average like it seems like majority of Muslims in America vote liberal and vote for liberal policies. So I think to say that it's not possible for people to integrate, I think America does a pretty good job of people integrating.
Wouldn't say that. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's impossible. On the contrary, when I talk about it, when people ask me, I just recently I was discussing with young Don. He brought this up, and I told him too. American Muslims are on average significantly less religious and less traditionalist and less practicing and connected to other Muslims than Muslims around the world. I think there was even a poll which showed, I think it might have been a Pew Research study result, which showed that American Muslims from those surveyed are the least connected to their Muslim identity, the least practicing. They don't go to the mosque very often. I mean, this is fringe. If you want to, look at that, that is actually fringe. If you look at Europe, for example, Muslims are very, very loyalist, fundamentalistic in comparison, and they have this strict bond together. American Muslims are very detached, which is good. And I'm not saying Muslims can't, integrate and become part of this society. On the contrary, I think the more American Muslims develop independently, they will become a different, form of Muslim who are not like the Muslims on the other side of the ocean. But I just don't think that Islam can, as a religion, get rid of the big problem that it has, which is that there will always be the fundamentalist faction within that advocates for terrible things. I mean, we have groups in the US already. The biggest representatives, many of them already believe in terrible things. It's just that the average population doesn't believe in those things and isn't really aware of them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess that would be my hope, because I see a lot of people, a lot of ex-Muslims who are really jaded, it seems, and I don't blame them at all for that. I definitely see all the same things that Islam is uniquely oppressive to women, I think. People don't like it when I say that, but I don't know what it is. There's something, the hijab I don't mind nearly as much, but there's something about the niqab and the burqa. I can't look at somebody wearing that and honestly say that they aren't being walled off from the society around them. And like it's not oppressive in some sort of way. So I definitely get where other people are coming from, but at the same time, I do have like family members who are religious and in their own way, and friends who I've known to be religious in their own way who are more accepting of more progressive values. And I think there's like some hope there. And I guess what I would like to see in the world is like a little bit more of a middle ground. I personally like I don't like religions. I think most religions are put women in a secondary status to men. I'm not really into that, but yeah, I guess that's I think the biggest disagreement I have with most former Muslims, I think, is just over how bitter they are over Islam. But it's understandable, especially with how it's practiced around the world and not in America. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's very. I find it very funny that you say that. People react to it. I don't know, not well when you say that Islam is uniquely oppressive of women. But it's everybody should know this by now. It shouldn't be a
Oh, yeah.
surprise to bring up the fact that Islam is uniquely authoritarian
Mhm.
when it comes to women. It's not just the way women dress. And in that regard, lots of people who are Muslims, who dress the way Muslim women are supposed to be dressed, might come to the defense and say, hey, this is not oppressive, I really want to do this. But there is the fact that the religion requires women to dress that way, and it doesn't just stop at that. The whole hijab is a thing that came into existence because women were supposed to be hidden from others, because the Muslim women belong to the faithful Muslim men and are supposed to be separated from, as early Muslim scholars like Ibn Kathir, for example, said that they are supposed to be separated from the non-Muslim women and
Mhm.
from slaves and prostitutes.
Mhm.
And
Even
that's the
though there's
purpose. So,
even though there's like
yeah,
a clause for prostitution and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And that's how, that's the whole function of the hijab.
yeah,
And it doesn't even stop there. It goes into the Quran clearly saying in chapter 4 verse 34 that men are in charge of women. Women must be obedient. If they don't obey, then you can rebuke them, separate
yeah,
beds, and finally beat them.
yeah,
You can marry 4 wives. I don't know. Women are less than men. Men have rights above women, and so much more. And it shouldn't be a problem to say this nowadays. Now, when it comes to the whole thing of ex-Muslims being more angry
mhm,
about Islam, here is the thing. I often think about how people in America who are not very much familiar with the Muslim ethos might
mhm,
not understand why people don't like Islam.
mhm,
I think Europeans are a little bit more um, different. They
mhm,
understand the situation
yeah,
a bit better. And ex-Muslims who actually lived in the Muslim world are often very angry about Islam, and that's not a
yeah,
coincidence. It's you live in those countries where, in many of them, it is illegal to say anything about Islam,
yeah,
and you could get in big trouble. I have like major court cases going on against me in Turkey, which is supposed to be a
yeah,
secular country.
yeah,
In many of them, it is illegal to leave Islam or to publicly say that you left Islam or to
yeah,
convert others.
yeah,
You are constantly being oppressed by your society, by the Muslims around you, by your family, and so on.
yeah,
And then we go online and we even have people like, I don't know, I had conversations with them. I showed them like this guy, Ali Dawa, who is a Muslim apologist, the most popular Muslim YouTuber. Like he is on here on YouTube openly saying that I deserve to be killed and that people who leave
that's
Islam should be executed. And he's
yeah,
proud of that. And this is what we
yeah.
deal with. Who can expect us to be okay with that?
No, no, I don't expect anybody to be okay with that. Especially like I know that I come from a pretty unique position, having uh grown up with the family that I've grown up with. Uh and yeah, and just and my family is still, pretty they know what I am essentially. So they just kind of the ones who know about it, let it be. It's mostly just my close family knows. Extended doesn't really know, but I guess yeah, you're right, and some of these people get really, really psychotic when you say anything or even hint at anything that could be insulting to Islam. I remember back when I first started arguing online with people, and I was early on like interacting with like some group of like older Muslim dudes. I would make jokes a lot, and I think a lot of the time the jokes would go over their head. But I remember I like made this I claim that like this is going to sound really stupid. But I made this claim that pooping is gay because it comes out of your butt, and if it comes out of your butt and it's about the size of your penis, it's a little bit gay. And so I got all of these. There are like 5 of these dudes like in a call with me, arguing with me, saying no, it's not gay. Like actually arguing with me that it's not gay. And then it just escalated. It escalated, and then by the end of that argument, one of them was saying that if you do something gay with somebody one time, it's not gay, but if you do it a second time, then it's actually gay. And so I don't even know how we got there, but at some point things got heated, and I asked one of them, well, what was the age of Aisha? They had said something really insulting to me, and I don't remember what. And so I asked them what the age of Aisha was. And then that dude got really mad. After that, he followed me around. Every time I was on any show on YouTube or anything, anywhere, he would follow me around. He would type in the chat. He would spam that I called the Prophet Muhammad a pedo. I didn't even say that. I didn't even say it like that. I just asked what age she was. And they're going around saying I called him a pedo. I didn't call him a pedo. You're the one saying that. But, yeah, so yeah, it can be very, very scary and very strange with interacting.
That's
with
very
people.
strange. I recently saw a video where a girl on TikTok, a Muslim girl on TikTok,
Yeah.
is reacting to a comment that somebody made about Muhammad, in which the guy merely said in the comment, "Didn't your prophet marry a child,
Yeah.
or didn't your prophet marry a 6-year-old, or something like that?"
Yeah.
And then the response was, if you're calling the Prophet Muhammad a pedophile, then this and that. I mean, it immediately goes there. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't even really bring it up and question it and talk about it, critically analyze it. It
Yeah.
immediately becomes a situation of hostility. But you know that is there, and that's just one of those issues that you can't even talk about, but that we should be talking about, because yes, the Prophet Muhammad, according to the most reliable Islamic sources and the Islamic tradition, married a little girl when she was 6 and had sex with her when she was 9 years old, and he himself was in his 50s. And you could say, well, okay, this is something that happens in some primitive society, I don't know, in the 7th century, but that's not. It's not just something like that. It is actually the prophet is seen as the ultimate moral example, the best human to ever walk the face of the earth, an example set to all humankind. And disagreeing with him on things, disliking him, and all that is unacceptable. You're supposed to, think that there is wisdom in whatever he did, which is why we have a lot of people today who say it's not a problem to, marry little girls, and we have people who say that here on YouTube, arguing with us and saying that it's actually a wholesome thing to marry little children because it's better for a society, to create a healthier society, to make women get used to motherhood from a very early age, and stupid shit like that. I mean, it's
honestly, it's actually wrong, because humans, we know, are like incredibly terrible at giving birth, especially the younger ones are even worse at giving birth. So consummating a marriage at like 9 is definitely not healthy, and getting somebody pregnant early is definitely not healthy. Yeah. So, and it's interesting because whenever I have that argument with with Muslims, I never really seem to get like a satisfying answer. I want them to be able to argue it if they're going to practice it. Like this is almost like for your good. If you're going to practice that religion, maybe you should be able to argue it effectively. But it just seems like that's the it's either, oh, they had different standards back then. Well, you can't say that they had different standards back then and apply the same standards now. Or somebody will say, oh, well, the age is disputed. Do you think the age is disputed? And then they'll be like, well, no, I don't think the age is disputed. Uh, uh, yeah, I just feel like I've yet to have somebody give me an explanation that was satisfying. The most is like like my mom told me like, oh, I think somebody left a one off of it. I think that's what it was, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about that, but
They
yeah,
confused, not
yeah,
6 with 16 or 9
yeah,
with 19, because it's like such an easy mistake to make.
yeah,
Uh, a quick thing that I want to add, by the way,
yeah,
it's very funny that so many people who say that that her age wasn't actually 6 or 9, that it's inaccurate, that she was actually older, are there are also people who will believe that Muhammad's first wife, Khadijah, was 40 years old when he married her, and he was 25 years old. You probably have heard of this,
I thought she
that
was
his
11
first
years older than him. Was it 11 years older?
something like that. I don't know. In
Yeah,
my mind, it's somehow 15 years. But the issue is, many people are not aware of this, but there is actually no reliable report whatsoever about the age of Muhammad's first wife. It
mm,
is not in any way based on any credible, by Islamic standards, credible, uh, you know, authenticated
yeah,
report. It doesn't exist. It is
yeah,
just a tradition found in some in later biographies, which says that. But on the other hand, reports that his child bride Aisha was 6 years old at marriage and 9 years old at consummation. There is abundant proof for that, and by Islamic standards, it is undeniably true. If you deny that, then you have to deny a lot about your religion, including
mm,
the Quran. So, and when it comes
yeah,
to then defending that and justifying that, the excuses are terrible. I heard it wasn't the parents allowed it, so it's not bad. It's not child rape if the parents consent. She didn't complain, so who are you to complain? You only find it bad because you are brainwashed by the modern West. It was different back then, and all. It's just the
yeah,
justifications are horrible. There is
yeah,
simply no way you can justify that.
yeah, yeah. You really can't. Um, So did you I kind of I watched your videos on when you left Islam and you kind of became religious before you ended up leaving it. Did you ever have doubts before then, before you went through the religious phase? Did you ever have doubts about what you believed in or whether there was a God or anything like that?
Yeah, I've always had a very, very loud mind.
Mhm.
People who have ADHD probably know what I'm talking about. But have had I've always been
Yeah.
thinking, and I was politically active before I became religious.
Mhm.
Um, and before that, I always thought about being religious, and I didn't really like the idea of it because I grew up in a very religious family. My parents are still extremely religious. As a young person growing up in Germany, I didn't find that really attractive. I was more interested in the German way of living.
Yeah.
But then we moved to Turkey, and I went through politics until I eventually ended up somehow um, thinking that I should kind of dedicate myself to my religion, which I always respected, but never really took that seriously. But some life events just pushed me toward accepting it, and I
Mhm.
feel like before I became very religious, I uh, never tried to. I never bothered thinking that deeply about whether religion is true or not. because I kind of didn't want to really analyze that kind of stuff in my
Yeah.
mind. I wanted
Yeah,
to.
it's
I saw that
scary.
as a thing about my parents, and I wanted to keep my respectful distance from it.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like getting too close to the sun. Once I got into it and started practicing it, I became very extreme in practicing it. And by extreme, I mean I just tried to become like the best Muslim I can possibly be because I thought that's my whole purpose. And but the more I studied it, the more doubts piled up, which I tried to suppress,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually it exploded, and I left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
sorry, I I have a little bit of ADD myself. I guess while you were in that more religious phase, I know you, and let me know if I'm going too far into anything. You mentioned in some of your videos about your aunt. If you don't want to talk about it, it's totally fine. But was there ever a point when you were in your deeply religious phase that you justified it in your head or found some peace with it in your head? Or was that something that always kind of nagged at you?
Well, it's so my aunt. So she was killed. She was
Mm-hmm.
murdered
Mm-hmm.
before I decided to become very religious, and she was killed by her then husband, whom she was trying to divorce because he became very threatening and violent and all that. And I was in very close contact with her. Um, I feel like I later admitted to myself that I feel like one of the main reasons why I actually decided to become more religious was the death of my aunt, because although she was like a very free woman, she frequently talked to me about religion, about the meaning of life, and how things could have been if life were different, and all of that. And after she died, and I lost her, I started thinking about all the things that we used to talk about, and about religious stuff more often. And I feel like that kind of pushed me toward becoming religious. I never justified it. I always thought that the guy did something horrible, unacceptable, even by Islamic standards, actually. But I never thought it's culturally appropriate for somebody to kill his wife over perceived immoralities or any of that. I hated it. All I did when I became more devout was to pray for my aunt and to think, everything goes exactly as Allah plans it, and I have to be okay with that. Uh, so that's as far as I went
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah. Um, what do you think the most extreme thing you ever thought when you were what do you think is the most extreme belief you've ever had, I guess, while you were religious or even while you were going through your political phase? I know you said you were a communist for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a very interesting question. Nobody ever asked me that. Uh, so, when I was a communist, I believed that it is justifiable to overthrow the government through by force,
Mhm.
through by establishing an armed guerrilla force, which would you know literally fight and overthrow the government,
Mhm.
and that destroying capitalism and all its arms and everything that goes with it was completely justifiable as a means to the end. I feel like, and I even felt proud of communist um, people who died
Mhm.
fighting in their urban guerrilla fight
Mhm.
against the state. I feel like that was a very extreme thing to hold. Uh, but when I was a Muslim, when I became very religious, there is just one thing that I remember quite aside from the whole hating others. I have to say, hating Jews, for example, is like
Mm.
it's like
Yeah.
and like it's so common in the Muslim world.
Yeah.
Most Muslims believe that one day they will fight the Jews and kill them wherever they are and all that. I believe that stuff too. So relatively, that is probably not that extreme. I believed back then that we should, in Turkey, shut down and ban all kinds of clubs, beach, entertainment, public nudity, which means just going out and
Hmm.
going to the beach and all that.
Hmm.
That these things should be banned. And I remember this one thing that once happened in high school. I was only in high school then, where our history teacher was talking about the past, the Ottoman Empire, and he said something like. There were things in the Ottoman Empire that most of us, of course, don't agree with. For example, it was the law that women that a woman's that a woman's testimony in court is worth only half that of a man, and I would guess nobody agrees with that. He said, that's what the teacher says, and I'm like, I agree with it, and then everybody turns around and looks at me.
Yeah.
And he's like, why? And I said, because that's what the Quran says. And everybody quiet. And he just had this thing on his face, this little smirk, and turned away and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And what's funny is back then I felt like I said and did the right thing because that is what I truly believe, and that is what is right because that's what Allah decides and He knows best. When I think about it today, I just feel like, oh my God, what a stupid thing to say and to do and to believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so when you first started becoming, I guess, or turning away from religion, did those super radical beliefs that you had, how long did it take you for those to change for you to start changing even?
I feel like some of them they were very shaky, and I didn't really believe in them. I just defended them and
Mhm.
outwardly believed in them because I was supposed to believe in them,
Mhm.
such as such things like women or um, hating other religious groups and other religions and all that. But some of those I got rid of. I feel like as soon as I acknowledged to myself that I left the religion, and leaving the religion was not like a 1 day thing. It didn't happen overnight. It took a
Mhm.
very long
Yeah.
time, more than a year. I would think. But when I finally acknowledged that I don't believe anymore, I immediately abandoned some things, some moral viewpoints. Uh, but I don't know, some things took a long time. For example, I have to say, I still thought that some ideas about Jews
Mhm.
were they stuck with me because I was fed with stupid conspiracy theories about Jews all my
Mhm.
life since
Mhm.
childhood, and I learned as a child that we are supposed to one day fight the Jews and all that, and that stuff stuck. And it took a while to have a reality check and to put everything down and to analyze everything by myself rationally, independent from whatever anybody gave me and from what my religion taught me. So I decided that I want to be a free thinker and analyze everything case by case, independent from all kinds of biases. And I feel like that's how I got rid of a lot of those preconceived ideas. I don't know. It's hard to say. It took a long time for some of those things to really get out of my head.
Mhm. What do you think? So other than other than the, I guess, the anti-Semitic theories and stuff, what do you think are some other beliefs that have taken you a long time to kind of let go of?
Um, Well, I feel like I keep thinking just about two things that are just so strong when it comes to Islam, which is the anti-Semitism and the whole women and morality, and sex and sexuality. Um, but I feel like I don't know, when we don't talk about such things, such morals, um, the idea of having to inherently obey some law and to do something that was prescribed by some exterior being, some objective morality and purpose that is within us all. I still, for a long time after leaving, believed that that might be a thing, and I was trying to free myself from that. But I feel like it took years for me to get rid of the idea that there is a purpose, that I was created for something, and that I have to pray. But for example, I think after leaving the religion, it took for many years. I still felt like so often every day I felt like something is missing. You know, the day is too long. Days are too long. They don't end. Something is missing, because I used to pray and I used to do
Yeah.
all, I used to do the 5 prayers and used to do all kinds of other trivial religious things and say religious phrases all the time, and suddenly those things don't exist anymore, and I feel like something is missing. I'm not doing whatever. I'm not doing everything that I need to do. So that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I don't really remember much when it comes to radical, extreme ideas that really stuck with me after I left, except those that I just mentioned.
Somebody in chat wants to know if you regret not going to the Hajj before leaving.
When I left, I thought, I'm so glad I didn't go. That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I feel like I should have gone. I should have made that experience. It would have been interesting. It would have been good to think I went there, I saw it all, I made the
Yeah.
experience, and I don't believe in it anymore. So there is no chance for me to ever even enter the country nowadays anymore.
Yeah. Sorry.
What is
about
what is
that.
your origin, by the way? Oh, no problem.
I'm of Indian origin. So
Okay.
yeah, my parents were from India. So,
I see. Okay.
yeah. Which also, I think also Muslims there are a little bit more loose with things than in other places. So there's some areas in there where they're not. So yeah, it really depends. But I guess sorry, I'm just trying to figure out in the next line. Are you still in contact with your family?
I am. I am. They didn't react very well to everything that changed. They were. I was kind of. It's probably a dumb thing to say, but I was kind of their favorite child, and they thought, oh, he is just, he's good. We can trust him, and he's such a good guy. He does everything right, and all that. And then when I became religious, they were like, like, that's amazing. They were so happy, and I saw their happiness on their faces all the time. And then when they found out that, at first they noticed that I'm not praying anymore, that I'm not doing those things, and they started interrogating, and I said, I don't want to talk about it. Please don't ask me about these things anymore. But later, when they learned that I left, that was a blow. And then when they learned that I created a YouTube channel, which has become large, where I actively talk about this and criticize Islam, that was devastating to them. And our relationship has been very greatly damaged.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's part of it, and I always anticipated this. There are people who go through worse things. I mean, it's just mine. My father doesn't want to talk to me at all, and my mother just is different. Others, I know of many ex-Muslims who fled, who cannot go back to their countries, whose parents want them killed, whose relatives want them tried to kill them and things like that. So I'm in a very relatively good situation.
Yeah.
It's just an emotional burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. So how hard was it going through the process of meeting your wife and then making plans? And did you know immediately you were gonna like be with her, or?
Um, we met online
Uh-huh.
through Instagram when she had an Instagram account, an Instagram page where she was getting popular and she was talking about religion. By
Mm,
popular, I mean she had like 10,000 followers on Instagram, and I was just some random follower who would make comments. And
mm,
then we started talking, and then we actually got to know each other and build a relationship
mm.
and all that, which is a very interesting development. I don't know. It's like she came to visit me twice from across the ocean, which I thought she was just bluffing. It would never happen, but she actually did
Yeah.
it. And and I don't know. Somehow things developed. I think it was completely unpredictable. I never even thought I would come and live in America.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Life is strange. This is just what Allah wanted us to do. This is what
Mm,
He predestined.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this is what He
uh,
wrote in His book.
yeah, sure, sure. Um, so was the whole process of like moving then, did it take a long time for you guys, or?
Yeah, um, it takes quite a while to apply to come to America,
Mm,
and then, but it wasn't actually that bad. I mean, it feels like it was a long. Okay, it took a year or more. I think it took 1.5 years actually, for them to allow me to come to America.
yeah,
I had to wait for so long, and then they finally invited me to the consulate, and then to the embassy.
yeah.
Embassy con? I don't know where they were, and then they told me they had an interview with me, and after 1.5 years of waiting, they just have a 5-minute interview with me, look at all my stuff, and they're like, "Congratulations."
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, lots of people have bad experiences and
Yeah,
have to wait much longer and all
yeah,
that. For me, it was all very easy. I came to America. The guy, the officer at passport control, like I was given this huge a folder full of things that I'm supposed to show, and
yeah.
I came and I'm like, oh, here's all my stuff, and he's like, I don't care about any of that. Just do you have a contagious disease? I'm like, no. Okay, then you're good to go. Welcome to America.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
that's how easy it all was.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How often do you have people who like come up to you, other Muslims maybe, and think that you haven't like experienced enough, or maybe you didn't understand enough, and then they try to convert you, or they try to like bring you back to the religion, or or most of the people that you interact with just kind of leave you alone at this point?
I mean, those interactions only happen online. In
Yeah,
private, I don't interact with, and I don't have those interactions. I try to keep this completely out of my private life.
yeah,
But online, I mean, that's just one of those things that I find kind of stupid and
yeah,
ironic,
yeah,
where lots of people who, when I look at their profiles, they're obviously not great Muslims.
yeah,
But and I was when I was a religious Muslim, I was trying to be the best Muslim I could be, and I was trying very hard not to judge the average Muslim,
yeah,
but was thinking it's a shame that they don't take it seriously. And nowadays, I have those people that I looked at and that I about whom I thought it's a
yeah,
shame they don't take it seriously. Those people come to me nowadays and say, "You never studied Islam. You never know about it. You should have
yeah,
asked somebody. You probably never practiced it and all that." And I'm like, "Oh my god,
yeah.
really, really, man."
I,
Of
you
course,
know,
there's also the
sorry, go ahead.
there are also the religious fundamentalist
Yeah,
types who are practicing Muslims and who
yeah,
also basically play the same,
yeah,
you know, tape and say you were never a Muslim to begin with. But I mean, yeah, okay, fine. I guess you know best.
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, so growing up, I never wore the hijab, but
How
I've
dare you?
known. Well, yeah, I know. We had family members, or we would know people who did wear hijabs, and they would always act like they were better than us and all that. But I remember I was friends. I made like a friend group, and some of the friends in there were hijabis, and they often, it's interesting because I don't know if this is an American thing or if this happens elsewhere too, but they had like a party, and by that point I was already not religious. I was already not believing in a god at that point. Uh and they had a party, and they were like smoking hookah, and they were drinking, and like the girls who were hijabis were like the quickest ones to take their clothes off too. Like I didn't even do I didn't even do that. And it's like I don't know if this happens anywhere else, but like I don't know. It was strange to me. I was like, wow. Yeah, but it seems like there are a lot of people, even, it happens in all of the religions, but it seems even within Islam, there are people who will put up one front and then do something completely different in private. So,
Yeah, it's hard for me to, and maybe unfair of me to, make a judgment about that. But
yeah,
I feel like it's like it's common knowledge, and everybody, it's like an open secret that people who grow up under religious circumstances in more religious families and are more, strict, supposedly disciplined, and all that, are more prone to, when they find the opportunity, enjoy all the
yeah,
forbidden stuff, that is out there. I have known, for example, I had relatives that were a family that were much more strict
yeah,
than my family in religiosity. Like I was still able to enjoy things here and there
yeah,
when I was younger. They were not. They
yeah,
lived a very tough life. They didn't have the chance to grow up as actual people who are allowed to enjoy things outside the house. And as soon as they became independent, they all became like very, I don't know, promiscuous, and
yeah,
exploited all kinds of things that are out there in the world which they weren't able to enjoy. In Turkey,
yeah,
it is common knowledge that religious schools are where you find the most, um, you know, sexual stuff, and all of that happen.
yeah.
Um, I feel there was even a study, I think, which I read a while ago. I don't remember where it was from. I just referenced it for that purpose, which showed that people who grew up in religiously uh, oppressive environments and families are more prone to, become deviant in their behavior, morally deviant, from the perspective of their,
Of
you
their
know,
religion. Yeah,
of their own religion. It's just a human,
yeah,
desired tendency to reach for that which you are not supposed to take, and it's not natural for humans to live that way,
yeah,
to be mentally caged and mentally tortured and beaten, and mentally, to be told you are not allowed to do this, you will not do that, you will burn in hell for that, this and that.
yeah,
You're just torturing yourself, and creating a monster, or torturing a children and creating a monster inside of them when
yeah,
that happens.
yeah, yeah. I definitely could see that. Yeah. Um, Do you ever think about doing like debating like political topics? Seems like you weigh in occasionally on political stuff.
I do it sometimes. I used to be much more interested in politics. Used to be politically active myself, and I occasionally commented on politics, on American politics, even in recent years. But I feel like, I don't know, something happened in 2018. I know a few years ago, I somehow thought, hey, you know what? I don't care anymore
Eh,
about Trump, about politics, about any of that. I
yeah,
don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't care. I don't want it to stress me. I don't want to be involved in those discussions anymore.
yeah,
I have I get enough stress, enough hate from what I'm doing here. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
that's
want to deal
fair
with that
enough.
anymore. That's what that's what I thought. I don't know. I just don't really, I don't really, I'm not even personally following
Yeah.
uh, political developments that much anymore, which
Yeah.
is kind of
Yeah.
surprising to me.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, again, like I generally stayed away from the religious stuff. Just like one, partly because I felt like I'm completely unqualified to talk on any of it. Like I don't even know where I would start with debating religious topics. But then, yes, secondly, it's definitely you get a lot of attention arguing in these spaces. Having like it, especially if you have like a Muslim background, and yeah, I already get called a Nazi, so like being called I'm trying to limit the amount of name calling that I get. Like, so yeah, I'm sure you get called an Islamophobe on a regular basis.
I wish that was the worst thing that people call
Yeah.
me, but yeah, yeah,
Well, I
I
think I
do.
remember so you said that somebody was just making up stuff about you, saying that you endorse like bestiality or whatever, which is, and then when you explained it, the actual argument, or no, not bestiality, it was like incest, right?
That's
And the
right.
actual argument is something that everybody talks about. Everybody's had this like argument, like at
Yeah.
least once before, right? About the two adult siblings who aren't reproducing and haven't grown up together and fall in love. And yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. It feels like it doesn't matter where you go in a lot of these spaces, because I think religion is semi tied to politics but not completely. But at least in the political space, I've noticed that people will purposely misinterpret what you say, like to their worst stability, I guess, and then make the conclusion that they can come up with for you. And
People love
yeah,
to do that. People love to exploit that. I mean, that example
yeah,
is from years ago, where I'm sitting down with another ex-Muslim, and we're talking about morals, and we're
yeah,
talking about incest because I brought it up because of the
yeah,
whole cousin marriage thing, and I just jokingly jumped into it by saying, "Hey, what do you think about incest?" And and then the guy that I talked to, Armin Nevabi, he was like, he had this position. I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all,
yeah,
as long as there's no reproduction. And I thought, what? And then we talked about it, and we literally just agreed that okay, if we were to make laws about banning incest,
yeah,
then objectively, how could you say it is wrong for two unmarried for two adults, two consenting adults who are not able to procreate, to be together? I mean, on what basis could you ban that? There's objectively nothing wrong with it. That was the whole discussion. It
yeah,
was not like a propagating of this idea that incest is acceptable, that we should totally
yeah,
advocate for that, that we are fans of this idea and all that. It was just a like little discussion. And of course, of everything that I have said ever, the Muslim apologists who want to go for character assassination picked out that
yeah,
and created this whole thing that you shouldn't listen to me and you can't trust me because I advocate for incest, and that's disgusting and stuff like that. It's just, I never even
yeah,
thought that it would come to that they would get that from that insignificant discussion, which I completely forgot about.
yeah, yeah. I guess. Do you think that's like the worst thing that you've been called, or what do you think would be the worst thing that people have said about you? If only if you want to talk about it.
Uh, well, I get death threats all the time.
Yeah,
I got them before. Um, People say that I am a lying um, devil. Somebody called me literally Satan. A big Muslim apologist.
that's gotta be a
Uh,
compliment. If somebody calls you literally Satan, I would take
yeah,
that as a compliment.
Yeah, like he showed a silhouette of me. Like he doesn't want to show my picture and like
Yeah,
promote me on his video, and shows a
yeah,
silhouette of me and says, and some of these people, they are literally shaitan. You know, he,
yeah,
he says to his followers, telling them
yeah,
not to listen to my videos, not even to
yeah,
argue against me, to completely ignore me because I'm literally Satan.
yeah,
That's just I found that very touching and flattering
yeah,
too. Uh, I've been
yeah,
called the Dajjal, which is the Islamic equivalent of the Antichrist.
mm,
Um, I am accused of trying to deceive everybody and of trying to destroy Muslim people's lives. Somebody even accused me of secretly approaching Muslim youth and telling them, "Hey, I want to tell you something about Islam. You know, you should leave," and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
People are weird.
Like you're the guy in the bushes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Again, the very brief time I had in those spaces, I used to identify as like a cultural Muslim before I just like before everybody got really mad at me for saying cultural Muslim because they're like, oh well, you're changing the meaning of what Muslim means, you know. But I just figured because people call themselves cultural Jews and cultural Christians, I just figured I would say it like that. They got super mad at me, and I was like, okay, what should I call myself? They're not cultural Muslim, and I was like, okay, well, ex-Muslim, and then they don't even like that one either. They don't want Muslim anywhere in whatever you call yourself. They don't want Muslim associated with it in any way, because they think it's like watering down the deen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you to acknowledge that ex-Muslims exist. So it's like, I mean,
yeah,
people who leave Islam often call themselves ex-Muslims. It's just you
yeah,
see people from many other religions doing the same thing. When it is a very authoritarian religion, it's
yeah,
much more easy for people to
yeah,
identify with that. Is to basically say, I am an ex of that
yeah,
because I
yeah,
left it. I left this oppressive thing.
yeah,
It's very like ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and
yes,
ex-Mormons are also
yeah,
very well known for that because they both come from these secluded cultish backgrounds.
yeah,
And but when you talk to Muslims, they don't want to call us ex-Muslims. They don't want each other. They don't. They tell each other not to use that term.
yeah,
They find that insulting, and they think it's dangerous because we are propagating the idea that you can leave Islam.
yeah,
Instead of that, they call us apostates or murtad in Arabic,
mm.
or other thing. Or they say we are fake ex-Muslims, that we were never Muslims, that we might have
They
been Muslims
accused
at
me of
some
that,
point. But
of being a
yeah,
fake Muslim at
yeah.
some point.
Or
So
you were never a true Muslim to begin with,
yeah,
which means you were never which is very funny because um, so I was a very serious religious Muslim at
hmm
some point,
hmm
and now I'm not a Muslim anymore. And now somebody comes and says you were never a Muslim to begin with.
yeah,
But obviously, in the past, at some point, I was a serious Muslim.
yeah,
But just by leaving Islam, it means that I was never a Muslim to begin with, then that means every Muslim out there is potentially not a real Muslim. So you should just, you know, not
yeah.
you shouldn't call others Muslims. You shouldn't acknowledge that they are Muslims. Everybody is probably a fake Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably it would make more sense for them to accuse me of that because just you know, but because I wasn't ever super religious. I followed the religion at a point, but yeah, there were certain aspects. Like I had an aunt and uncle visit one time and tell me that like, oh, you can't listen to music. Music is like how the devil gets you and stuff like that. And that was something that immediately I was like, no, that's I'm putting that out of my head completely. But yeah, it's still, even despite having like been brought up in a much more moderate setting, I still feel like, you know, I still had the social pressures of being a female in this kind of like or being a woman in this kind of religious culture, uh, you know, like weighing on you. You know, you don't want to displease anybody. You don't want to argue with anybody. You kind of just want to be as quiet as possible and like disappear into the background. And so like I feel like I had the experience of at least, you know, being part of it, though it wasn't as intense as other people's. I guess one thing I always well, I don't know where I was going with that, but have you ever had to argue about FGM with people? Because I had to argue one time about FGM with somebody, and it was really, really disappointing because he did not understand female anatomy at all. It was amazing. So
I did. I want to quickly comment on your on what
yeah,
you just said.
yeah,
There are many Muslims out there who are the way that you were before,
hmm
who are just Muslims, and when you ask them, they will say, "Yeah, I'm Muslim," but they don't practice it. They don't do anything. They don't care. And
hmm
by Muslim standards, that still means you are a Muslim. Even
hmm
then, calling you even then saying that you were never really a Muslim is kind of a problem for all those other Muslims who are still like that. But yeah, I think many people, for many people, it's easier to just disappear into the
hmm
background without openly challenging Islam and the Muslim identity, and to
hmm
just live like that. But that's if you have the luxury to do that. Like some don't. I did not.
hmm
Um, but yeah, FGM, female genital mutilation. I never I never no, I never discussed that with anybody in when I was religious, or face to face. It's something that only came up in debates with Muslim apologists and their channels. I had this one guy respond to me about female genital mutilation, and he basically justified it by bringing up some extremely ridiculous things, including saying that it doesn't make sense for me to object to female genital mutilation because women in America also get procedures done like vaginal rejuvenation.
It's it's completely different. It is so different. Yeah, had to argue with somebody one time about FGM, and he said that it was beneficial for women because it makes it easier for men to access that area. And I had to explain to him, no, you're literally taking away like pleasure receptors for women when you do that. It was, and then he thought I was insulting his culture as I was trying to explain that to him. And luckily, there were a couple of girls from his culture who were in the call with me, who could like calm him down and explain to him that I wasn't I wasn't trying to insult his culture. I was just saying like, it's just bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So.
there's a thing. So Muslims from culture to culture, and from Sunni Muslims have for those who don't know, have the four mazhab, or four
Pillars.
legal schools,
Oh.
which distinguish how they see and practice some moral matters. When it comes to female genital mutilation, there are some differences, but traditionally, uh, like the scholars argued that it is a virtuous thing to uh, circumcise a girl and to cut her in some way that is better for the man who will marry the girl, or and then they have differences on what exactly they practice and how they practice it. Like some believe in just cutting parts of it. Some believe in removing the clitoris, which is a horrible practice. And you can find this in some major well-known religious books, or books by Islamic scholars, who openly say that that is what should be done. And you have people today arguing that it's justifiable. that it's somehow okay, and then you have others saying, well, okay, not that, not removing that, but you can have, like, for example, I don't know, a hood reduction and stuff like that, and they will explain that that is somehow necessary or somehow makes things better for girls and for her man and all that, but it's just all such idiotic, barbaric, ridiculous nonsense that is you cannot in any way explain to me, to us, that that procedure is better for the girl, or that it is necessary, that it's more it's not even
It's not.
better for
It's
it's not even
worse.
better for the man. It's not even better for, I mean, if you want to be a piece of shit and want to say, the woman doesn't matter, it's supposed to be for the comfort of the man, it's not even good for them. Like, what is it supposed to do?
Well, actually, a lot of women who have that procedure done to them, there are different types of it, like you said. There are like different types of FGM that are practiced, but some of them are so bad that all this scar tissue forms, and it actually like ends up sealing up uh, stuff down there. And some women have trouble having intercourse later on in life when they get married because of the injuries and the scar tissue that they've gotten from that experience. Not even to mention that, like, a lot of the times they have it done when they're like 7 or younger, and it's got to be an extremely traumatic experience for somebody at that age. But yeah, there are women who will have to go and get reconstruction later on in life because they can't even have intercourse with their husbands
Yeah.
as a result.
I would say, I want to be fair about that topic. I feel like
Yeah.
female genital mutilation is that one topic where I think early Muslim scholars did something out of the ordinary, and for different reasons adopted this practice from the local Arab
Yeah.
populations or
Yeah.
others, and then turned it into a fundamental Muslim practice. But it wasn't actually something that Muhammad ever said,
Yeah.
or that the Quran ever said. Like, there are some reports, some hadith in which Muhammad says some vague things, like there's this one instance where he encounters a woman who is cutting a girl, and he says, don't cut too severely. That's all he says. But it's a very dubious report. And then there is another thing where he says, when the two circumcised parts pass each other, then you have to wash yourself or something, and that is then interpreted as so both men and women are circumcised, therefore that. But there is no command, nothing in the Islamic sources which actually prescribe this practice.
Yeah.
But Muslim scholars within the first centuries adopted and established that this is part of Islamic law and morality, and I feel like they did that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, well, you'll
they
see
established
people.
this.
Yeah, you'll see people in the regions where that's practiced, and I believe in one of those regions, like half of the people who practice FGM are Christians, half of them are Muslim. And so I remember that, and I know that also there are plenty of cultural practices that are much more regional than they have to do with the religion itself. Um, but yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that it was adopted from, it may have been adopted from a previous practice or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
I think many Islamic ideas, many Islamic beliefs and practices were adopted from pre-Islamic Arab polytheists and other cultures. Like, they interacted a lot with the Africans on the other side of the coast, and took a lot of practice, like exchanged a lot of values, and the Kaaba, which is like the most central thing about Islam, is something that is taken from pre-Islamic Arab polytheism. It has nothing to do with Abrahamic monotheistic religion. Although Muslims really want to deny that and want to believe that it is originally a house for Allah and all that, which is just a dumb idea. But I feel like they took many beliefs and many practices from other pre-Islamic cultures, and that was probably one of them. That's what I think. But the difference is with many of these beliefs and practices, you find them proposed or justified by Muhammad or the Quran in one way or another. But when it comes to FGM, you don't find anything. So
Mm.
it's a hard thing to argue about. And many Muslims rightly say this is just a cultural thing. This is not actually part of our religion. Show me a source. But then you also have to tell that to those many Muslims who do believe it is part of their religion, because their Islamic scholars say it is part of the religion and it is obligatory. It's it's a
Yeah.
mess.
Somebody in chat wanted to ask where the command for male circumcision is in the Quran. Do you know?
I don't know where exactly it is. I don't even remember if it's. I'm pretty sure it says. I know about the hadith where Muhammad says that this is what you are supposed to do, and this is part of your fitra, which is your nature or how your nature is supposed to be.
Mm.
Uh, which I don't know if you want to
I would
visualize
say,
that, but
like,
yeah.
I, I think that oh, sorry, I would say that, like, obviously I think it's more of like a men's issue, but I've heard the arguments that that shouldn't be practiced anymore, and I know that people, that like the medical associations now are saying that it's not necessary. And I agree with that. But I would say that there, to compare like male circumcision to female circumcision is not quite equal, I guess, in the severity of the problems that it causes. So
Yeah, I can't remember what's if the Quran ever explicitly says that you are supposed to do that. The Quran does mention circumcision though
mm,
as something that was prescribed, or that Abraham did, or that people were or are supposed to do. But it's pretty well established in the most authentic Muslim sources that Muhammad did say that you are supposed to do it. That and he said it is part of your nature. It is like for your there are some reports in which he says that a Muslim is supposed to leave his beard, trim his mustache, and be circumcised, and and stuff like that. Or yeah, and have pubic hair trimmed, and which is a very weird thing to do. Uh,
I think so. Yeah.
but so, I don't know, like keep the beard, but then do that. And you are supposed to do these things. Like this is the dress code, if you want to call it so. Uh, but I mean, it's an ancient practice that shouldn't be necessary anymore. It's just not medically. You cannot argue that it is
Yeah.
necessary, that it is healthier. Some people still argue that it is. It's a whole discussion, but I would not say that that it is equal in severity and harm to female circumcision. But
Yeah.
it probably is in terms of intrusion and doing something to somebody who doesn't
Yeah.
consent.
Yeah. Definitely shouldn't do things to people's bodies
Yeah.
without their consent. Um, I guess I can ask the chat if they have any questions as well. I had a question in the back of my head, but now I can't remember it. So just waiting for it to come back.
It happens to me quite a lot. I can relate very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I take medication now to deal with my ADHD.
Yeah.
Before I did that, I was always completely all over the place. I could never pay attention to the conversation that I'm having. I would
Yeah.
totally like
Yeah.
go off. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm on medication too. I just still have like very bad short-term memory. So, somebody says, AP, did you change your mind after meeting David Wood in person on your belief in God?
why would I change my mind after meeting him in person? No.
He's a Christian, right?
Yeah. I'm good friends with David Wood. A very, very good guy. I recently had a whole meetup and road trip with him, which happened very spontaneously. And we talked about religion and about God too. We I mean, we didn't discuss that with each other. We just we turned on the camera and had a conversation about it, which I still didn't publish because I'm so busy with other things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't change my mind in any way. I simply don't think that there's any reason for me to believe in God, and I am convinced that God is something that humans invented in order to make sense of the world around them. And I'm very open minded and very open to change my mind, but I just don't think that there's
Yeah.
anything that has been able to that I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
You know.
I just find that there's so many flaws in so many religions that I don't think I could ever follow any religion. And I just don't, there's just no belief in any higher power for me or anything like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like some religions are more flawed than others for sure, but there's still so many flaws in all of them. Somebody in chat wanted to ask, why do we modify genitals if Allah makes no mistakes? Couldn't he have created us with genitals that are already modified by default? Did he forget? I think that's a good question. So
I don't know. I mean, it's a Jewish practice, which was probably not uniquely Jewish either, or maybe not uniquely Hebrew either. It was just it was found in different cultures as well. Maybe it was a Middle Eastern thing. But the Hebrew people thought about it as a sign, as a contract with God, basically, that you are supposed to do that to acknowledge that you are God's people. And then Muslims, without knowing anything, adopted the same thing and also thought, yeah, this is what we're supposed to do because Allah wants us to do this. This is how a man is supposed to be. But I don't know. It's just you could ask anything about it, and it's just a discussion that you can't really get out of and can't properly answer, right? I mean, God wants you to cut off part of your the skin on your penis. Why? I don't know. And why didn't he take care of that? We don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, can you ask AP what his opinion on the LGBT community is?
What kind of a question is that? It's a very broad thing. What is my opinion on women? That
Yeah, what is your opinion
that's
on
what it is.
women?
That's
Do you accept women? Do you believe in women? Do they exist?
I don't know. Yeah. No, you have to. I guess you would have to talk about what specifically you mean. I don't. I'm always on the side of individual freedom.
Yeah.
Have never had a problem with gay people and homosexuality. I have been supportive of their right to exist, their right to breathe, their right to have relationships, their right to marry and have families. More recent discussions about LGBTQ. I mean, that's what I mean by what exactly do you mean by that question? It needs to be more expanded if you want me to specifically
What do you think of
talk about
neopronouns? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. If somebody says, "Hey, my pronouns from now on are are they them, please use this," I'll be like, okay, they them. If somebody says I have transitioned, my pronouns are from now on he, him, or she, her, I'll be like, okay, fine, whatever you want, I will do that. It's okay with me. So that'll be fine with me. But if you want to call yourself different kinds of things, or if you want to find it offensive and judge me for not using the correct one, without you specifically asking me to, then I will be like, I'm sorry, I'm not obligated to, know exactly how I'm supposed to refer to you. It's like we have culturally, as a society, as a species, developed a way to refer to each other and to talk to each other. And there's nothing wrong with me doing that to the best of my ability. Yeah, what a discussion. Anyway, I mean, I have no problem with human freedoms and all the
I
stuff that
tend
they
to be
want.
very pro individual liberty too. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people who leave religions are very pro individual liberty.
yeah. I know some people that are totally not, but just
Really.
depends. Yeah,
Okay.
and there,
Um,
it's weird that sometimes there are atheists who left religion, but they are very, very um, conservative, bordering on reactionary, and it's strange.
an authoritarian.
Yeah,
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I never, I guess, well, I guess in some world it may make sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense to me, but, um, uh, what do you think Muhammad Hijab's issue is? What kind of medication does he need? I don't think I've seen too much of Muhammad Hijab. I've seen the other people in the space, though.
yeah. I'm not in a place to make a judgment and diagnose him, and
Yeah,
I think he should go and seek help. Uh, I mean, that guy has a problem. I have said before that he's narcissistic. I told him personally, I think you have a narcissistic personality disorder, and he said to me, "I know I am narcissistic." No, I'm not kidding. He actually said that to me in private messages before. So it's not just something that I'm making up. But I don't know. He's just an angry person, and sometimes blames it on back pain and blames his very strange behavior on pain medication and all of that. But he has a
yeah.
problematic religion and he has a problematic personality that he should take care of.
There was this one guy I used to argue with who was also very religious Muslim, but I kid you not, every night he would be drunk out of his mind. Like after a certain time, like after like 8 p.m. or something like that, he would be drinking and he'd be typing and he'd be super drunk, and it made no sense to me. And then he would like call me the person, like the he would call me all sorts of names, but it would just be like, I don't even drink like you, dude. I don't even do what you do. Like how am I the worst person here? But yeah,
That
there's
is
a lot of
funny.
people like that. Yeah. So
That's funny.
yeah. Uh
Yeah.
um let's see. Uh what is your explanation for the uniformity of nature? Why do humans reliably give birth to humans? Why not zebras or fish? It's a weird question.
What is my opinion on that? Is that what the
Yeah,
question is?
what is your explanation for the
Explanation.
uniformity of nature?
I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
yeah, I appreciate it. I just don't understand what I'm supposed
Yeah,
to think or
I
say about that.
how did you first like get into debating religious stuff? Like I know that there's a very heavy like debate culture with Muslims, and I think it's super funny and it's very enjoyable to watch and all of that. So I think it's super, yeah, it's super entertaining to watch, but like definitely like even getting into the opposite side. I know you said you started off with Instagram and all of that, but did people just start asking you to talk to them, and then you started debating them, or?
I think Muslims are actually the popular Muslims, the fundamentalists,
Mm,
are very much against debating, against public debates, against structured debates, which is why they often don't appear on debate platforms like Modern Day Debate. It's hard for them to come to an agreement and to do such things. Some Muslim debaters do it. Most Muslims prefer to make their own publications or their own videos in which they attack people like me and the
mhm,
stuff that we say.
mm,
Um, with me, I started with Instagram. I moved over to YouTube. YouTube grew, and um, I guess with the Muslim apologists, at first they didn't want to acknowledge me and react to me because they always have this whole idea of I'm an apostate.
Mm.
They're not supposed to acknowledge me, interact with me. They're supposed to ignore me and let me die and all that. But at some point, they just began making response videos, challenging me to debates. At first, I ignored their videos. I didn't care about their debate challenges. I thought, I'm not here to debate with anybody. My deal is with Islam, not with you. I don't care about you and all that. But in the end, eventually, I gave in and I thought, you know what? I want to have
Yeah.
debates now. I want to discuss in public now. And now I can't find those people anymore. Like all the ones who challenged me, they don't want to have public debates anymore. I don't know
It's
why.
interesting.
And but yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
I was basically pushed, dragged by them into the whole debating Islam, and now the same people don't want to debate anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. I noticed as well, like when there are no non-Muslims around, like I don't know. I always saw this kind of like debate-esque culture kind of forming, but oftentimes it was them debating with each other. It was like Muslims debating with other Muslims, you know?
Yeah.
And I also would like be really jealous, like because I would see them debating, like whenever we'd go to like a party when I was growing up. The men would be on one side and the woman would be on the other side, and then there would be the kitchen in the center. And the men would all be very heated in like political debates, and so I would be like kind of hiding in the kitchen, like listening to them, and and I would like want so badly to to participate and say something. And then one time I said something, and they all like everybody stopped talking. I popped my head in and said something, and everybody stopped talking, and they all looked at me until I walked away. It was very awkward. I didn't like it. I never did it again after that. um, yeah, it's interesting to see them debating online and stuff. But yeah, you're right. It seems like in certain situations they're afraid of looking bad, like with the is pooping gay thing. You would be surprised, because one of them got a lot of flack from the other Muslims for saying that if you do it one time, it's not gay. If you do it like 2 times, then it's gay. Like if you do something like homosexual relations with another person, one time is fine, but if you do it a second time, then you're, yeah. So
Yeah, when Muslims have disagreements with each other about religious things, they can become very,
yeah,
very serious. It
yeah,
can become extremely heated, and you see it online. It's like sometimes it's very fun to watch that Muslim apologists online they have a disagreement and then they start attacking each other
yeah.
brutally. Then a whole war starts between them. It's
Have you
very
ever
funny
seen?
actually.
Yeah, it's very funny. I've seen there is this 2 Muslims I saw who I guess very different from most Muslims. They don't believe in any of the hadiths or something like that. And then there was the normal group of Muslims that they were Sunni Muslims, and they believed in the hadiths and stuff. And they didn't consider the other 2 Muslims. They just like they didn't want anything to do with them. They found them just absolutely, how could they even call themselves Muslims? And um but even that, it's like if you talk too much, and I guess if you talk too much with them and they trip up, then people get mad at them for saying the wrong thing. And I definitely could see that maybe is a big pressure. Maybe that's why Daniel, whatever his name, Daniel Hakikachu or whatever, he has like 10-minute openings in every debate.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Well, he's one of those people.
Yeah,
He's a very problematic one.
yeah,
Uh, I had a recent interaction with him, which was a debate. I want to call it a debate because that's how he sees it,
yeah.
where I actually debated Islamic beliefs with him and the whole idea of the Islamic God Allah, and how the Islamic God Allah is ignorant of the biblical God and his name and all that. And he had no clue what was going on. He was horrible. He got very angry when he couldn't figure out the situation. He wanted me muted and kicked out and all of that. It was
Yeah.
pretty hilarious. But what he does is he relies on political talking points, on twisted statistics,
Mhm.
and on deflection and on this whole false dilemma of the evil, immoral, horrible, oppressive, liberal West
Mhm.
and the solution, which is Islam. And he tries to establish that whole game whenever he has a debate,
Mm.
no matter what the topic is. Like even if it's about, I don't know, how to make pancakes, he will
He hates
bring it to
liberalism. Yeah.
he will bring it to the liberal West is so horrible,
Right.
and pancakes are better made in an Islamic world.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, he's definitely something. How do you prepare for those types of debates? I imagine like your background being as religious as you were is super helpful with that.
I think when you stick to having these conversations and these debates, it's important to always to just not rely on them. I often just sit down and try to refresh my memory on everything,
Mhm.
try to think of new ways of approaching certain topics,
Mhm.
write down some talking points, make a few notes like this topic, this topic, this topic. Then I later expand on that. Sometimes I prepare presentations on these things, but it's just you have to figure out exactly where you want to go and how you want to go there, depending on the topic. Like debating whether Islam is true or false. I recently sat down and kind of planned that in advance, and then the whole plan was okay, in order to argue for my point that Islam is not true, I will um, talk about the things that Muhammad did and said, the things that the
Mhm.
Quran says, which are proven wrong,
Mhm.
and then something else which I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, it's like it really depends on the topic how you go into it.
Mhm.
But if you are confronted with somebody like Daniel Hikichu, it's like it doesn't even matter what you really
Yeah.
prepare because he is going to prepare his whole script
Yeah.
of liberalism bad, me good, and if you disagree with something that I said, then look, you have said such horrible things. Look, everybody, he's such a horribly immoral person, and the whole discussion just gets dragged to that, and you're supposed to engage with that ridiculous false dilemma. It's just it's
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah. I noticed this because I interact with like super far right people now occasionally, and they tend to think that the liberal West is like degeneracy as well. So it's super interesting to see that kind of similarity with them.
There
So
has been also this recent overlap between the whole, yeah, those people and some Muslim apologists, and some Muslim
yeah,
apologists try to take advantage of that and try to
they both try to.
recruit.
Yeah,
They
they try
try to
to.
recruit each other and
Mm,
try to kind of appeal to each other and impress
yeah,
each other and all of that, which is doomed to fail.
yeah,
After a while, it will never work. It is a dumb idea. I mean, just because you both despise the progressive liberal morals and
yeah,
viewpoints, that doesn't that doesn't remove the fact that both of you are following completely fundamentally different worldviews, no matter how much you hate the progressives.
Well, I would say if they're super religious Christians, there's probably some similarity with especially the ones that I've interacted with that are like anti woman working, women having voting rights, things like that. There's probably some overlap, but I think you're right. There is a certain point where it gets because a lot of them are like very you know uh want only their people, right? And so at a certain point down the road, it wouldn't work. It would be doomed to fail. But it's just interesting to see that overlap now. I saw, I don't know if you know, like America First or Cozy TV or any of that, but it's like I interact with some of the people there. They're like Nick Fuentes fans, and I remember they had a stream with this one woman, and they it was her first time streaming on their platform, and they made her wear like a full burqa and everything. Um, that was just like a one-time thing, but like they'll frequently tell women like to cover up more and stuff. So it's super interesting to see.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
But it's not a common thing. I mean I have
Yeah.
I know Christians.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's common either. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
yeah,
fringe.
I know religious Christians who are very, very, observing and
Yeah.
who really care a lot about their religion
Yeah.
and those people. I mean, the majority of Christians believe in what we call Western democracy and liberalism, in a liberal society, a liberal state, not modern liberalism, which is more of a political ideology within the whole liberal framework, which proposes different progressive viewpoints, but they believe that we should have democratic societies and all
Yeah.
that, whereas most Muslims don't agree that we should have the same thing.
And
Most Muslims agree with
yeah.
a religious state. The thing is, where those two parties will not agree with each other, to say the least, is one side wants to establish a society where they have somewhat of an influence, but a free society, whereas the other one wants to establish a society that is completely in their control, where the others become second-class citizens, basically, and obey them fully, and individual freedoms basically do not exist anymore on any level. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, I recently. There was this recent obsession with this guy, Andrew Tate, for example, which I don't understand at all. I mean, the guy's what a horrible guy. Yeah. And because on one stream he said some nice things about Islam, and those nice things, by the way, are stuff like, Islam does it right. I think Islam is the right religion. It's the best religion out there.
Woman,
yeah. And you get to, if your woman doesn't obey you, you show her what you mean. And women are obedient; they have to be obedient, and this and that. And you don't have all of that gay stuff and all that. And of course, religious Muslims, they were like, yeah, this is our man. But just because this guy agrees with your horrible morals in one way, that doesn't really bring you closer to each other or unite you in any way. In your perfect world, this guy would not be able to live the way he does. He would not exist. He would be killed by now.
Well, he runs a brothel, right? He runs a brothel where he and they're like, there are some claims that he is like a human trafficker. We don't know, but yeah, he's not somebody that anybody should be looking at. And I also see that with like the manosphere and the Muslim like sphere kind of also overlapping in some ways. And then you'll get they'll always talk about the 4 wives without knowing anything about it. I don't think it's good. It's super toxic. I wanted to mention, I saw like 3 Muslims cover the whole like beating a woman in Islam. And they had an interpretation of it that I have never heard before, that when you do this, that it's like you're signaling that you're going to divorce her, not that you're actually going to beat her. And and I've never heard that before. So
there is a way of there is a thing in Islam where if you say a certain phrase, like some dumb cultural thing, like you are like the back of my mother to me, or something like that. And if you do some certain implications, or say be gone, or be divorced, or something like that, that means you have officially become illegal, forbidden to each other, and you are to be divorced. But that is completely different from what the whole wife beating thing is about. It's
Yeah.
very clear in Islamic
Yeah.
tradition. It's like unanimous in Islamic tradition, in Islamic scholarly history, that Quran chapter 4 verse 34 allows a man to discipline his wife. And in Islamic history, in Islamic in the history of Islamic scholars, you have that very much laid out and explained in terms of how this beating should be done.
Mhm.
How if you beat your wife, you shouldn't beat her on her face. You shouldn't leave scars and marks, which some Muslims say, "Oh, look, it says we're not supposed to
That's
leave
exactly what an
marks."
abuser does, though, right? That's exactly what an abuser would do to. They make sure, and an experienced abuser knows to not leave marks on
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
where
yeah,
they can be
yeah.
seen. Yeah,
Yeah, they say you're supposed to just use a stick,
yeah.
a miswak, which is something that you clean your teeth with, and things like that. You're supposed to only lightly tap her to warn her, to show her that she's doing something wrong because you are a person of authority, and all of that. These are things that are established. Uh, and it is unanimous. It is unanimous. There is no other way out of this. There's no other way to interpret this. It is unanimous that a man is supposed to be in charge and supposed to beat his woman if she doesn't obey. And the Quran says, if she obeys you again, then leave her alone. But that's what it is about. It is specifically about obedience. The man is in charge, and if she doesn't obey, then the man makes sure that she obeys. And in Islamic history, this has been laid out in different ways. For even in so far that there's this thing, this one phrase, which is that the man of the house is supposed to keep his what do you call that? His beating stick or his flog or something somewhere where it can be seen inside the house, so that the children and the wife know who is in charge and know their place. Of course, there's a kind of difference of opinion of whether that is meant to be taken literally or not. But that is an established tradition in Islam. There's no way of changing that, and that's simply not acceptable in an enlightened modern world.
Yeah, I think liberal society seems to be the best way. That's what I've seen. Or who knows? I could be completely wrong, but and on the whole woman obedient thing, Andrew Tate is dating girls who are like freshly 18. Of course, he talks about, when I talk to my woman, they know what I'm saying. They listen to me. That's because they're 18 and you're almost 40, right? Like, of course, they're going to listen to you. If you were dating somebody your age, maybe she decides you don't know like too well, you don't know as much as she does. I think also he talks about like, if my women are complaining about wanting to go to the club and I tell them no, then they know to not go to the club. Well, they want to go to the club because they're 18 and 19. That, like, it's just another thing. You're dating somebody who's way too young for you.
Also, there's stuff like women who are 25 already they're secondhand, they're used goods.
When you can have children up till like your 40s.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
he also said specifically, I think, I wouldn't, let my wife, girlfriend, I don't know, I wouldn't let her go to the club by herself because I know exactly that others want to have her too, and you wouldn't leave your car in a dangerous neighborhood where people
Yeah.
can
He
snatch
said
it and
something
damage it.
about rape too.
That's how he views it.
Yeah. He said that like people who get raped are also at some point putting themselves in that situation, which was also very, very, wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're a
Yeah.
woman, and why don't you take responsibility for the fact that you are a woman and you exist? So
Yeah.
therefore,
My bad. Yeah.
he also said, I think, that he also said, I'm not a rapist, but much of the reason why I moved to Romania is because they are more relaxed on, sexual assault and stuff like that over here.
It's not a good sign. Not a good
That's what
sign.
he said, and
Yeah.
Yeah, those are of course the words of a very wonderful person.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about Andrew Tate, he also bullied somebody for asking for help for his son's surgery online.
Wow.
Like he actually like there was actually I recently saw that there is
Yeah.
somebody posting a link and asking for help because their child has a serious disease and they need money, they need funding, and Andrew Tate comes there and starts talking stuff like, do you feel like a disappointment because you have to beg online, you have to beg others to give you money? If you say please, then I can pay you and stuff like that. It's like, what the hell, man? This
Yeah.
is the guy that you want to take as a role model.
Ego tripping, you know? And also, like, I don't know about you, but I don't think having four spouses is like the way for me. I have enough trouble remembering one person's name, right? Like, so
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
even understand why you would want to do that.
It's so much work. It's so much work. It makes no sense to me, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I think that's all I had for questions. People were asking, you have a lot of fans in the audience, so people were
Oh,
asking what your next upcoming videos are going to be and things like that. So
um, I I have been a little bit absent from my YouTube stuff. I know people notice that. I'm busy with a lot of
yeah,
different things right now. I want to get back and make more videos and work on some other
cool.
projects. I started a cartoon recently that I want to continue,
Is it the
which is
Prophet Tales?
yeah, the Prophet
I
Tales.
really liked that. That was really funny. I thought that was a really, really good. It's not something I can show like my family, but I showed it to all my friends. I thought it was really, really funny. So
Thank
yeah,
you, thank
yeah,
you. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah,
I wrote the script to that. With this guy Saiten, who is an animator, and
yeah,
he worked together with me on that. He changed up added a few things. Then he
yeah,
did many of the voices. I did some.
yeah,
I came up with the music.
yeah,
He turned it into an actual song. It was like
cool.
it was fantastic working
Yeah,
together on that, and we definitely want to make more episodes because
yeah.
that that can be amazing.
That's one of my
So I'm
favorite things I've seen on the internet recently. So it's really good.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Mm.
that. Um, I will do more satire stuff. I'm gonna have more Shaky Booty videos. Shaky Booty is an important Islamic scholar
Okay.
of our time, uh, and I will have more videos myself explaining
Yeah.
Islamic stuff. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna work. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do what's necessary.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for speaking with me. You're super knowledgeable. I think you've given me some perspective, some more broader perspective on things. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you
So
so much. I really appreciate the invite. It was
yeah, maybe we can
an
do this again
honor.
sometime. So
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
definitely,
or
definitely.
even
We
like
should
team up for a debate one day when I'm like more prepared and stuff. So yeah, that would be cool.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
I would love to. Let's keep in touch. Let's do
yeah,
this more often.
definitely. Yeah. Thank
Right.
you so much. Have a great day. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. Unless you had
Yeah.
anything for me. So
No, you too. Have a good day. Have a great
okay,
day, and
all right.
thanks everybody. And I always say, stay away from Islam. So yeah,
Yep. So
okay,
I'll link you as well in our chat. So thank
okay.
you so much. Yeah.
Are you gonna stay live? Am I? I'll just.
I think I'm probably going to stay live. I have to go to a debate about Biden soon, so
Oh,
I might have to do
oh,
that.
have
Yeah,
fun.
but
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So,
All right.
yeah, thanks.
All right.
Have a
See
good
ya.
one. Thank you so
You
much.
too. You
Bye.
too. Bye.